Theology is to be lived. It's more about intimacy with Jesus than it is accruing information about God. And I think that's where it wrecked me, because I realized there's some places I wasn't leaning as fully as I could into Jesus. I brought my mind to the table, sometimes more so than my heart. And so theology for me was more about study than it was about being conformed to the image of Christ and leaning into Jesus. And so it's taken me a long time to realize what you just said. Theology was meant to be lived more than studied. Of course, we've got to be Bereans and make sure what we're talking about is framed by Scripture. But if it doesn't lead to more intimacy with Jesus, more compassion for the world around us, then it's just noise.
People misunderstand how the Bible defines love, then they're going to misunderstand the nature of Christianity being true. So here's the thing. When Jesus is asked by a Pharisee, what is the greatest commandment? He says, the greatest commandment, the first and greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all of your heart, your soul, and your mind. And the second commandment is to love others. There's a reason for this hierarchy. You can't know what it means to love other people until you first know what it means to love God. Our love for God must shape how we define our love for others. And so sometimes today, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, but sometimes today secular culture says, hey, you're not loving, but they're talking about that from their own definition of the word love. They're looking at their own standards of affirmation and just saying, you're fine the way that you are, whatever you want to think, whatever you want to do, you're fine as long as you're not hurting someone else. That is a secular standard of love. So as Christians, we have to understand what Jesus said about loving others, because if we don't, we're going to get really wrapped into this view, an equivocation really, on the word love. People mean very different things when they talk about the word love. So we have to help our kids get clear on that and to know that when someone says love, it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing that God would mean if we were talking about love in that context.